maids, au pairs, gardeners, babysitters, and other domestic workers to the wealthy. What's the weirdest thing you've seen rich people do behind closed doors? Dog walker here. One of my clients only lets her dog drink smart water. My sister is a nanny for an NBA player and his wife. The wife called my sister at 9 p.m. to come to their house for an urgent matter. When my sister gets to their house, the wife tells her take the trash out. That's it. My sister drove an hour round trip to take out the trash. She has so many ridiculous stories about this family, but that one is my go-to. Gosh, where to start? The wife was driving through the home improvement part of the city and saw a sale on bathtubs. So she popped in and bought 3. As she was leaving, she saw another tub she liked and simply had to get that one too. She wasn't renovating a house at the time. They refused to throw away food. Used by and best before dates are completely ignored, to the point where I found a tin of seafood marinara which was 15 years out of date. They have a holiday home in the South Pacific and have a housekeeper clean it 3 times a week, yet they only visit 3 to 4 times a year. When they are not visiting, no one lives there. When the family go out for dinner, the father will happily pay for the expensive meals, but not the drinks. The kids, who are all teens or older, have to pay him back for the drinks and he will send reminder messages about the amount. Yet when any of the kids offer to pay for the meal, he won't accept. The wife is a hoarder and will often take way more samples than any normal person. She always makes sure to take all the shampoo/soap etc from hotel rooms, and if she passes a housekeeping trolley, will grab as many as she can from there too. Yet she never uses them. They have a whole bathroom cupboard dedicated to samples. I know a lady who's discreetly rich. One of those that, unless you knew the more expensive but quiet brands, you wouldn't be able to place her. She would wear designer jewelry sets to the gym. Anyway, her quirk was she liked Costa coffee, so she'd get one day, drink half of it, let it cool, and then put the rest of it in the fridge, and reheat and drink the other half the next day. When she told us that she does this, and we asked her why, she laughed and said, "I'm just frugal." I nannied for a New York City power couple in 2014. Both were corporate lawyers for national banks. The husband owned more socks than I had ever seen at one time in my life. Drawers upon drawers of them, all navy blue, black, and grey. I used to be a live-in nanny for the CEO of a major German investment bank in Berlin. They were a lovely couple with a sweet baby girl, and they made me feel like part of the family from day one. They paid me well, had a separate car for me, and weren't concerned by what I did in my spare time. They were very generous, lovely people. My only gripe is that they had strange eating habits. Some days they would have 3 enormous meals, and other days they would forget to eat all day. I was often too shy to say that I was hungry. I dated a very wealthy man. Nothing was out of reach for him, and he wasn't used to being told no for any reason. I broke up with him the day he pulled a gun out on his driver because the guy refuses to part with his beanie on a cold day. My ex wanted the beanie and could not understand why he could not just take it. Fucking weird dude. I've only babysat one time, and it was for a friend of my grandparents. All I really had to do was hang out with their 8-year-old grandson for a night. Overall it was a pretty cool night. All we did was play 2K and Madden all night, so it wasn't bad. But anyway, this family wasn't like billionaire wealthy, but wealthy enough to where they left me an envelope with $500 in it and told me whatever I don't spend on food, I can keep. Wealthy enough to have sped off in a Maserati for the dinner they were at. Wealthy enough to have a pool, jacuzzi, a nice BBQ built into the backyard out back. You get the idea. They were just an old couple with some money, and they were taking their grandson's parents out to dinner one particular night. Leave me with $500, so I think to myself, I might as well splurge like $30 or $40 on a meal for 2 and pocket the rest. I was like 17 or 18 at the time, so I can't say it was a negligible amount of money. Anyway, I take the kid outside to my car across the street, which, at the time, was my older brother's 2005 Toyota Corolla. He gets in, takes a look around, and goes, "Where's the button that moves the roof back?" "Sorry kid, no convertible here." He tells me that his parents only have convertible cars and that he's only been in one other car that isn't a convertible and that he isn't my friend anymore. I thought that was pretty weird. Throughout the night, he did also make some interesting rich kid comments, such as asking if we could go to a restaurant that had steak on the menu. He revealed an interesting bit about his parents, saying that they keep talking about bringing him a sister when the time is right. Apparently the kid asked the dad when the right time was, and he said when mommy stops being afraid. I then learned that the kid's mom and dad divorced about a year later. Felt bad. He was a cool kid, didn't really have that shitty spoiled vibe, more like an innocent, curious, steered wrong by his parents vibe. Once when I was a nanny, I was house sitting while the family was out of the country. The refrigerator in my apartment broke, so I packed up some perishables and brought them to the family's house to store them until the landlord could fix it. When I brought my groceries back to my place, I realized I had accidentally grabbed something that wasn't mine from the cheese drawer. It was a gallon Ziploc bag. Inside that was a smaller Ziploc bag. Inside that was a bundle of wax paper. Inside that was a bundle of plastic wrap. Inside that was another bundle of plastic wrap. Inside that was a bundle of tinfoil. 7 layers deep, I found an old lump of fruitcake. I was a babysitter for rich people once. Their silverware was constantly filthy and caked in what resembled peanut butter and regret. Their children were pleasant, but refused to brush their teeth more often than their hygiene-impaired parents, until I told them gross stories about gingivitis. The mom had a small Buddhist altar in the living room, but was also extremely vocal about her Christianity. Would repeat the experience. It was mostly getting paid to help with homework and watch Voltron and pillow forts. I was a nanny for an affluent family. They had a beautiful home and nice vehicles and the kids all had lots of toys and new clothes. But while doing laundry one day I had to take a load of mom's cloths out of the dryer and every single pair of her panties had multiple holes in them. Not like gnaw holes lol, but worn out most tattered panties I've ever seen holes. Got curious and looked in her undergarment drawer and this was par for the course, and not just period panties. She was like a major high up in a huge company and her panties looked worse than I would imagine a homeless person wearing. My friend works for a tax lawyer for the obscenely wealthy. Their firm is one of those go-to places when you want to take advantage of tax havens. Think Panama, Luxembourg. He tells me one of their clients had an issue and called the people he always turns to for help. His lawyers. The problem? He bought a new jet and only just realized its entertainment system doesn't have a Blu-ray player. This was 5 years ago. Find someone that can fix it. Today, he had lawyers at 3 different firms searching for a solution that afternoon, all billed him for it of course. Totally forget how they got their start in life. I used to work for a guy who ran his businesses into the ground and declared bankruptcy, more than once I believe. He then married rich and his wife paid for him to go to school for a decent certification. He now owns a business that's slowly failing because of how he runs it, but he and his wife still have plenty of family money and they are well respected in the community. He complains non-stop about lazy millennials who are so entitled and think they deserve free stuff from the government. It bugged me so much to see how he was so dependent on grace and luck that just doesn't exist anymore, but he thought he was so much better than anyone who wanted a leg up. Didn't work for them, but went to school with their son. The daughter was 19 and had gotten married, so the couple decided to have a test child that was a small monkey. That was already pretty weird, but then I learned that they also had a previous monkey before that. It had been playing in the laundry while the maid was loading clothes in the washer. Poor thing died. Makes me wonder why they didn't call the test child thing off after the first one died. I work at a ski school office at a fancy ski resort in Colorado. I've had guests come in and get a private instructor just for them for 3 weeks straight at $1,000 a day and then throw the biggest hissy fit when their credit card declines a $20,000 charge, trying to explain that their card company might think it's fraud and they lose their minds. I have a $200,000 limit, it shouldn't decline. I was a nanny for a really wealthy family. Their public face was polished and put together. My second day on the job, I noticed that there were really intricate alarms and lock systems on each of the kids' bedroom doors. It turns out the dad was a registered sex offender. The alarm systems would turn on and lock the kids' doors at 9:30 p.m. The mom had to use a special code to open them if the kids needed her during the night. They turned out to be a really fucked up family, so I was only a nanny for a year. Helped my mother-in-law, who was a maid once with a very large mansion in NC. Beautiful house, amazing architecture. They traveled the world all the time. The kitchen had old appliances from the 70s. The wife's bathroom had a broken toilet seat that was duct taped together. The wife did not rewear her underwear. We were not to go in the basement. I peeked down there. There were clothes 3 foot deep in the basement, where she took off her clothes and just threw them down there. Thousands of pairs of underwear. Very weird people. I'm an assistant to a rich guy. I help him run his business. Most of the ones I know are very entitled. They don't understand no. I have no idea how some of these people got rich. I watched my boss have a full-blown temper tantrum because a customer called him 40 minutes before he was leaving on vacation. Full-blown meltdown. This guy barely does anything and goes on vacation at least once a month. Screws over his customers on a regular basis. We ordered a burger one day and they used a sesame seed bun. He does not like sesame seeds, so he threw the burger at the cook and basically lost his shit. Always complains about how shitty his life is, even though he buys anything and goes anywhere he wants. It's hard to explain until you see it, but money and greed really screws people up. Once he gets back from summering and I'm looking for something new as I just don't care anymore. Babysat a few times for a friend of my lawyer uncle. She was insanely wealthy widow who lost her husband to a freak helicopter accident. She would sleep with her then 10-year-old son both naked in the same bed and then would walk around the house the next morning in the bath. I understand them needing time to grieve and even occasionally sharing a bed. However, the whole naked thing threw me off and I only did it a few weekends. The kid was great and loved me, but was a little too touchy and cuddly. No way I was going to be around his naked. It was a bit away from my house and she would come home late, so I would sleep in their guest house. The most bizarre was this newly rich young family in Vienna. The bedtime routine for the kids, aged 3 and 7, included basically a spa treatment for both. I haven't seen that amount of products in a child's bathroom. They each had their own in my life. The poor 7-year-old girl had next to no hair on her head, but I was required to slather her in the most expensive adult shampoo, conditioner, hair mask, hair oil, and some other things I didn't recognize every night. They only had one tiny box of toys and time spent playing was set up for 30 minutes after they brushed their teeth. Dinner was normally a bland fish fillet and a ton of salad. Not a grain of sugar anywhere in the house. Hot cocoa was made with skim milk and pure high quality cocoa. No sweetness to it whatsoever. It tasted awful. They had time to explain everything to me the first time I was there, and I received an inch thick file with lists and procedures to follow. What they didn't mention was that the older girl was still wearing diapers at night. It made for a very awkward conversation with the child, and I only hope I was sensitive enough to not cause her any future trauma. Very weird. I was a nanny for a pretty affluent family for a summer, and on the whole they were really nice and great parents. 2 things stood out to me. On one occasion, they had family friends visiting with their 3 children. So I worked a full day taking care of the 5 kids, while the 4 adults just hung out in the house, ostensibly working from home but really just drinking wine and hanging out. I understand occasionally having the nanny come while you're there, so you can work well from home. But nannying 5 children whose parents were 10 feet away was a little absurd. The second thing is that they reused Ziploc bags. I honest to God probably spent at least 45 minutes a day washing, drying, and organizing their Ziploc bags.